Hello, listeners. My name is Cliff Ratza. I'm the author of 2 ongoing series of novels, the Lightning Brain series and its sequel, the Keepers series. And in addition to teaching at universities, having a writing career, and running a sales and marketing consulting business, I am Prime Solutions writing coach. Prime Solutions is an author and writer services company offering printing and publishing, graphic design and editing, sales and marketing campaigns, and a writing coach program. If you would like to learn more about any of the above, please contact Prime Solutions via lightningbrainseries.com website. Now, the title of this podcast is The Culture Wars, Some Insights for All People, especially readers and writers and authors, which I think all listeners, especially authors and writers, will enjoy because it's a topic often mentioned on news broadcasts or in articles. And war, any and all of which have culture-like settings, creates the confrontational backdrop for many novels coming from all eras. Think of A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, or the contemporary Star Wars series. So let's continue. And a good way for continuing is to clarify 2 definitions of 2 concepts often used interchangeably. First, how do you define a civilization? Well, here's a good definition I found by Googling it. A civilization is a complex human society, usually made up of cities in a specified geographic area, with certain characteristics of cultural and technological development. In many parts of the world, early civilizations formed when people began coming together in urban settings. It is often demarcated within a time period. Please note that this definition includes cultural characteristics. And how would you define a culture? Here's one I found by Googling it. Culture is an umbrella term which encompasses the social behavior and norms found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, customs, capabilities, and habits of the individuals in these groups. And a culture wheel picture came with the definition. Let me read the items on a circumference. There's greater community, knowledge and stories, language, traditions and rituals, techniques and skills, tools and objects, the arts, food and drink, values, greater community. So I think we now have a good understanding of what civilization and culture are. And everyone knows what a war is. In the popular sense, it's a conflict between political groups involving hostilities of considerable duration and magnitude. Such incidents, if the resistance is sufficiently strong or protracted, may achieve a magnitude that entitles it to be named a war. And as with any topic that attracts in-depth sociological study, its definition can be expanded. So here's a bigger definition. War is an intense armed conflict between states, governments, societies, or paramilitary groups, such as mercenaries, insurgents, and militias. It is generally characterized by extreme violence, aggression, destruction, and mortality, using regular or irregular military forces. Warfare refers to the common activities and characteristics of types of war, or of wars in general. Total war is warfare that is not restricted to purely legitimate military targets and can result in massive civilian or other non-combatant suffering and casualties. Historians write books devoted to specific wars. The ancient Greek Thucydides, often called the father of history, covered the Peloponnesian Wars. This recounts the struggle between Athens and Sparta in the 5th century BC. His work is the first recorded political and moral analysis of a nation's war policies. And Shelby Foote's Civil War books and documentaries are a contemporary example. There are many types of warfare. Wikipedia gives us this list. There's biological warfare, chemical warfare, cold warfare, economic warfare, political warfare, covert operations, espionage, cyber warfare, proxy wars, conventional warfare, which is declared war between states in which nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons are not used or see limited deployment. Cyber warfare, insurgency, information warfare, nuclear warfare, total warfare, unconventional warfare. The list goes on and on. I'll stop there. In the book, War Before Civilization, subtitled The Myth of the Peaceful Savage, Professor Lawrence H. Keeley, who teaches at the University of Illinois, says approximately 90 to 95% of known societies throughout history have engaged in at least occasional warfare, and many fought constantly. Throughout most of history, wars have been bloody, physical battles fought between countries who wanted to gain land or wealth from the other side, or to annex that other side's civilization to theirs. People had little to say in the matter because they didn't matter. The rulers of whatever political system controlled the country seldom looked out for anyone's interest other than their own. And until the Renaissance and subsequent Enlightenment that leads to modernity, and we are modernity or post-modernity, most people were so preoccupied earning what they needed just to survive that they didn't have the time or energy or power to engage in war. But with the Enlightenment's scientific and industrial revolutions and its philosophical turn to the subject revolution, sometimes called the Copernican Revolution, which elevated freedom and liberty, justice and respect for the individual and rights, people finally began going to war for what they wanted or believed in. I'm certain you know many examples. Through crusades and other religious wars, the French and American revolutions, our Civil War, and World Wars I and II. And today it appears that countries have advanced enough to conduct wars using words for influencing and persuading rather than weapons firing bullets and bombs and missiles. How might we classify cultural wars? Well, here's one breakdown. Ideological, where different factions are pushing different sets of beliefs. There are progressive cultural wars. Progressive meaning different factions pushing different socio-political agendas. For example, libertarian, neoliberal, neoconservative, socialism, far right, populist nationalist, far left, authoritarian, communism. Or family values, including religion, marriage, lifestyles, family, and children. And then there are secular cultural wars, in which no religious or spiritual affiliation exists, and they take more of a humanistic approach to ethics. A popular term for those active in cultural wars today would be the term social justice warriors. So let's consider a brief history of some of these cultural wars. Women's rights, starting with the suffragettes. Suffragettes were members of women's organization in the late 19th and early 20th centuries who, under the banner Votes for Women, fought for women's suffrage, the right to vote in public elections. Then there are the civil rights, intensifying in the 1960s. Then the gay and LGBTQ rights, starting in the 1990s. Then there are the identity rights and cancel cultural wars in the 2010s and escalating even further today. And I'm certain all listeners have heard about MAGA, that's Make America Great Again, and Trumpism. And here's a listing of current cultural war issues: climate change and energy, gender, race and identity, health and education, economic inequality, progressive versus liberal economics and politics. There are many others which I will leave for you to identify, and it is each person's choice which side to support. But what's most important for a stable country and society is the people. It's the population that is well educated and understands all sides and is tolerant and ready to debate the issues. That's why everyone should follow enough news and current events. Doing so keeps us informed and allows us to decide if and how we need to become active in particular culture wars, always using words as our weapons. Where are culture wars going to take us? That's up to us, and that is why we see more people actively engaged today in debates. We the people, not our government's politicians or elites, should decide. I enjoy listening to healthy debates that give insight to all sides, and I would imagine you agree. And that wraps up what I want to say. I hope you found at least some of what I said interesting and helpful. And I thank you for listening. Bye-bye until next time.